Okay. Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining. Can everyone hear me and see my screen now? Is it in good size for everyone to see?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So welcome to the joint Reblaze and Beyond Impact webinar for today. Today we're going to cover how to protect your web assets. We're going to cover what Reblaze does, how we do it, the solution, and then we're going to also go over Beyond Impact and the services that they offer. My name is Itamar Sabo. I'm the VP GM for Reblaze for North America. And with me, I have Casey Louisiana from Beyond Impact, who is the VP of Sales and Marketing from Beyond Impact. Thanks, Casey, for joining me today. Do you want to say anything?
Thanks, Itamar. Yeah, thanks, Itamar. This is great to set this up, and we look forward to the outcome of this meeting today. And then I think we're looking forward to setting a few more up early this year as well.
Yes, perfect. Thanks, Casey. And to everyone that is joining, we just want to ask everyone to maybe be on mute. But if you have a question, our team is on the line. If you want to put a question in the chat, we can answer it during the presentation. And of course, at the end, we will have some time for Q&A. So looking at today's agenda, we're going to cover, I'm going to cover Reblaze, how to secure your web assets, the solution. Then Dima Nazarenko from our team, he's our Director of Solution Engineering. He's going to show you the Reblaze setup at a high level and then show you a real-time demo of how Reblaze works and what you can see. And then Casey will go over cost savings in a time of crisis and what Beyond Impact offers from that perspective. And then we'll leave time for a quick summary and some questions and answers. So with that, let's start with Reblaze. So Reblaze, if you look at Reblaze, Reblaze is a cloud-native web security platform. It's a comprehensive platform that protects your web assets, your web applications, your websites, your APIs from attacks and from hacking attempts. At the end of the day, all the traffic that usually goes to your applications are routed now, will be routed to Reblaze. And what Reblaze does, we analyze, monitor, profile every single request that comes to your application, your web application or API, and we make a decision whether this is good traffic, legitimate traffic, or whether it is malicious. If it is malicious, we block it at the Reblaze level, and it never reaches your application. But before we go into Reblaze, just wanted to share with you what we see in the market currently and behavior of the bad actors currently. And the major thing we're seeing today in the market is the increase, not just in the volume of what we call bad bots out there, botnets, but also their sophistication. Just to put it in perspective, across all of Reblaze's customers, we actually created an annual bot report a few months ago. And looking at all of the traffic that at least we analyze, we see that 38% of traffic going to our customers' web application is coming from bad bots. And that number is increasing actually exponentially. Not to mention, there are also, of course, good bots that you need to allow. But if you look at the ratio between human users and bad bots, you see an increase in volume. That's number one, but also in sophistication. We have lots of good stories from our customers, how sophisticated bots are, but they are not yet that sophisticated to completely mimic human behavior. And that is part of the technology that Reblaze offers to distinguish between human users and bad bots from that perspective. So if you look at the impact that these bad actors are doing or happening today, what they provide, and the consequences that they can affect your business. So some examples here, I won't go through all of them, but the key ones, of course, the classical one is taking your website or your web application down. This is usually a volumetric DDoS attack. Multiple bots are engaged in reaching your website, and they just clog your resources, your bandwidth, even the resources of your servers. That is, I would say, the classical type of attacks that we mitigate against. But as I mentioned, the sophistication of bots is increasing, and that also means that actually, unlike in the past, you don't need that volume of bots anymore to really create a business harm to your services. So bots are being used today for data theft. Think about maybe competitors trying to scrape data from your website, whether it is for pricing, whether it is for pictures, whether it is just for competitive intelligence. So we see a lot of bots being used for scraping attempts. The other, of course, bots are being used to penetrate, find breaches in your infrastructure, in your applications. They want to find the weakest link in your application, and they will experiment and try until they find that tiny hole, and through that get into your application, and not just cause harm, but also maybe steal data and degrade the user experience. Maybe the last thing that I will mention that bots are doing, which is quite interesting. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Somebody mentioned, and they're correct, that the presentation is not, it's kind of caught on the right-hand side, not the full screen is shown. Yeah.
Okay.
And now we can see the full screen, but when you do an actual full screen session, it just cuts it.
Wait, so let me do this. Thank you, Dima, for telling me. So I'm gonna share my entire screen. Maybe that will work better. Is this better? Everyone? Now I can't see the chat, so someone needs to maybe.
Yeah, that's fine. I keep an eye on the chat.
Okay, this is better?
Yes.
Perfect. So maybe one last example that I want to share with you, and we actually have some e-commerce customers that reach out to us because of the issue that they've seen with bots. So imagine you're an e-commerce website, and you have, of course, a cart or a shopping cart on your website. So we've seen our customers seeing multiple bots going through the website, filling their cart, but not just that, they actually went through a whole checkout process. So imagine the business impact of what we call inventory hoarding. Your system might think that there is now a customer that is about to buy something, but when you do that at volume, that can cause issues from that perspective. So just wanted to share with you two examples. If someone can mute their line, I think I'm hearing someone. Liron, maybe you can mute that person. Thank you.
I'm going to mute everyone.
Okay, perfect. So in this example, I want to share with you, this is an airline that is a Reblaze customer. And the interesting thing with this customer, they approached us for two reasons. One, they saw their website being maliciously used by bots for two things. One, they saw an increase, which was abnormal, of searches of flights and schedules on their website being initiated by bots. I don't know if you know, but in the airline business, there is a penalty if the ratio between searches to active booking of tickets is out of whack. So that caused a business harm to that airline. But what was more interesting, as you probably know, if you buy an airline ticket these days, usually the airline gives you 24 hours to cancel your ticket and get a refund. So those bots actually took advantage of that, and they literally bought all the seats on multiple flights, and less than 24 hours later, they released those seats and, of course, got the refund. So imagine the business impact that airline had. By deploying Reblaze, we quickly identified those bots for those two issues, and we saved that airline more than $600,000 of savings just by deploying Reblaze, so they don't need to pay the penalties, and of course, not losing customers because customers thought that those flights are fully booked. So a great example of the sophistication of bots. Another customer that we have, which we're very proud of, we are working with with Google and eBay, is a Reblaze customer to protect all of eBay's web assets. And here, the main reason eBay needed a solution was because they're selling things online, of course. They saw bots going to their website and scraping all the pictures, the pricing, all this information that eBay has on their website. And those competitors wanted to use it for their advantage. Again, by deploying Reblaze, we quickly identified who those bots are, who are human beings, and we immediately helped them from that business aspect. So very sophisticated behavior of bots, but also the sophistication of Reblaze is, I would say, even better because we can distinguish between those bad actors and human beings. So a little bit about us, introducing Reblaze. So our vision from day one, and we've been established, by the way, in 2012, is to provide a comprehensive web security platform that is unified and that integrates multiple elements into one platform, which I'll go to in a second. But not just integrate all the elements, but also provide it in an easy-to-use fashion with minimal maintenance, a system that learns and adapts to things automatically. So that was the vision when we established Reblaze. To date, we have more than 300 customers globally. Some of them I mentioned already, and at the end of the presentation, I'll show you some of our other customers across other verticals. On a daily basis, currently we protect more than 30,000 web applications and APIs, whether these are websites, web applications, or APIs that are being used for mobile web applications. We're all using mobile applications. Most of our customers have a mobile app, and Reblaze also protects those APIs to which those mobile apps connect to. And on a daily basis across all of our customers, as I mentioned before, we see more than 5 billion HTTPS requests a day. So that gives us a lot of visibility and information about new attack profiles and new security postures that we need to deploy for our customers. So what do you get when you deploy Reblaze? So as I mentioned, this is a cloud-native solution. It's an all-in-one solution. And in addition to that, we also provide it in a fully managed way. We have a 24/7 SOC. Our team will provide you full managed services for the Reblaze solution, meaning we will not just deploy it for you and with you, but from that moment on, we can also help you monitor it, configure it 24/7. The system includes these 6 key elements. The first one is multi-layer DDoS protection. So the basic DDoS that everyone probably knows is network level DDoS, and we can protect it against that. But what is more interesting, we're starting to see DDoS attacks at the web application level. Think about the layer 7 layer, and we protect against layer 7 DDoS attacks. The second element, we developed in-house a very sophisticated bot management solution that is based on biometrical behavioral analysis. So we know how to detect between bots and human beings. But second, we also know how to mitigate against those bad bots versus good bots, etc. The third element that's also included is a web application firewall that, unlike other solutions where you need to configure multiple lines of policies and maintain those, our system, the web application firewall, was built from day one in a simple to configure and manage fashion with minimal amount of policies and rules that you need to set up. Usually we see our customer maybe have 10 to 15 rules. They don't need more than that, unlike other solutions that might require hundreds, if not thousands, of policies and rules over time. So these are, I would say, the 3 active elements of the solution that provide the security service. But in addition, we also believe in absolute visibility. Through our dashboard, the demo will show you later on as part of our demo, we provide real-time traffic analysis to our customers. Analysis and visibility are critical for our customers, and many of our customers see that their eyes are open because suddenly they see information at the web application layer, at the layer 7, which they didn't have before. We believe that visibility leads to control, and control leads to better security, and that is the reason everything is visible to you as a user of the Reblaze system. The fifth element that we have, as I mentioned, because we're cloud native, we're essentially using the power of the cloud to take immediate action. So as I mentioned, all the traffic routes to the Reblaze instance, we monitor, analyze, and profile every single request, and we make a decision whether to let it through because it's legitimate or block it at the Reblaze layer. But because we're running in the cloud, we also are leveraging the auto-scaling feature of the cloud, meaning we can absorb and scale up to any size of attack almost imaginable. So we absorb everything, we scale, and we can take those actions without any interruption to your business. Last but not least, the solution can also include CDN and load balancing. This is, I would say, the only element that is optional. We are integrated with many CDN providers, and we can provide that integration to you. Or you can keep using your current CDN service. You don't need to change anything. in order to use Reblaze and add it to your environment. Another thing that I want to mention, because we're a cloud native, we're also cloud agnostic, which means we run natively in all these major cloud providers, from AWS to Azure to Google Cloud, and also recently we added DigitalOcean. We have all these options for you, which means we can run in any deployment environment that you have. We run in your cloud of choice. Wherever you're running, we will run next to you, or in some cases, we can literally run within your VPC if you have your own VPC. So that is if you're running in the cloud, but we can also support other deployment environments, like we can protect your applications whether they're still on-prem in a private data center. Maybe if you have a hybrid or multi-cloud environment, any combination of these environments are something that we can support, and we have actually multiple customers that have used the hybrid method of protecting their web assets and applications. Another thing to take into account, which is important, especially in the security space, we are fully compliant with all the major compliance and certifications that are needed, whether it is SOC 2, GDPR, PCI, ISO 27001, etc. So the solution is fully compliant, is certified across any aspect that is needed today in the security space, so you can feel at ease that you can deploy Reblaze for your services. Before we jump into the demo and a little bit about the Reblaze setup, I just want to mention we're not just cloud agnostic. What we're also, I would say, supporting any vertical or any industry that you can think of. We have multiple customers. All these are our customers today, by the way, that we can refer to publicly, of course. From e-commerce customers, we have customers in government and big corporations. Travel, I know today maybe because of everything that's going on in the world, maybe travel is suffering a little bit, but it will jump back once everything is done. And we have lots of customers in the travel industry, whether it's online travel, whether it's airlines and things like that. Finance, this is another key vertical that is heavily being attacked, whether banks, whether payment processors. For example, Payoneer is a payment processor. So imagine all these retailers or online e-commerce website, they need to connect to a central payment processor. One of them is Payoneer. And Payoneer was also attacked, and they reached out to Reblaze in order to protect their central payment processing elements. So imagine if Payoneer goes down, what is the business impact to all those retailers and e-commerce websites that are using their services? We, of course, also have other SaaS and born in the cloud companies that use our services. And last but not least, of course, is gaming, gambling, whether it's FanDuel, William Hill. Those customers are also being attacked on a daily basis and need to protect their assets from that perspective. So with that, maybe Dima, I'll hand it over to you to go through the Reblaze setup and then share your screen for the demo.
Of course. Thanks, Itamar. There was a question about special licensing. I'm not sure what Alexandra meant by special licensing for specific holidays. Alexandra, if you could elaborate, it will be great.
Is this in the chat, or can we unmute Alexandra?
So I understand that it's like a higher period for the traffic, but what was the exact question for the license? What do you mean special licensing? The system can scale to any type of traffic to accept if it's valid traffic or if it's an attack. Our system is smart enough and utilizing the auto-scaling policies from the cloud providers to scale up and scale down, actually. Does it address your question?
Okay, perfect.
Excellent, thanks.
Thank you. And, yeah, go ahead, Dima.
Yeah, Praful, regarding your Layer 7 data logs are encrypted in Reblaze VM instances. So the way it's deployed, I'm not sure, Itamar, if you have that slide to show our architecture for GCP, for example.
Not in this deck, to be honest, but I can bring that up.
Yeah, so I'll bring it up. Just give me a second. address the question to show the architecture.
Okay.
Okay, here it is. Okay, I'm going to share my screen right now. Let me know when you guys can see it. Itamar, I guess I will rely on you on that.
Are you sharing your screen? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So regarding the log question, I'll take one step back to explain the actual architecture. As Itamar mentioned, we are cloud agnostic and we can be deployed on any cloud, the major provider on the market nowadays. Also very important topic to talk about that we're a single tenant environment. Every customer of ours is going to get its own servers, its own, like you can call it the edge servers, we call it the Reblazers, the one that's going to analyze and protect your environment. In addition to the single tenant environment of the actual architecture for the Reblazers, we also do the console, the logs buckets, the configuration buckets, and everything is deployed only for that specific customer. We don't share anything. So your logs are isolated only to your account, and no other account is going to have the same bucket or the same console utilizing the same instances. I hope it addresses your question. Praful, does it address your question? And I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce your name properly. Okay, I guess Itamar, I will need to rely on you right now to take a look at the chat.
Sure, let me see. So where was the question from? Do you remember, Dima?
Praful.
Praful. Praful, does that work? Can you maybe write in the chat? Yes. He said yes, but if Edge server is hacked, is that the question, Praful? Okay, let's maybe cover
the Edge
that.
server itself does not have the logs. The logs are being stored on a different bucket. So regardless, even if somebody gets the access, they're not going to be able to see anything.
Okay. Okay, Dima, just looking at time and the flow, and we have time at the end also for more elaborate Q&A.
Yeah,
so
perfect.
Maybe if you can take 10, 15 minutes for the setup. I don't know, do you want me to bring that slide to show the flow? Or do we jump into the demo?
Of course.
Okay.
So yeah, guys, that's the generic architecture for Reblaze with any type of cloud integration. As you can see, we have the end user here that sends the request to a customer. CDN, majority of companies are using CDNs nowadays for any purpose. It can be caching of static content, acceleration of dynamic content.
Dima, can you move to full screen? Can you share this in full screen?
Course.
There was a request on the chat.
Yep. Can you guys see it now? Is it good? Oops.
Yes, much better.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so that's the end user, and as we mentioned, CDN is optional, but majority of the companies are using CDNs nowadays. So then the request when comes from the end user goes to the CDN, then it's going to hit our architecture. There's going to be a load balancer on a specific cloud provider of your choice. Depends on the licensing model you're going to go with. And then it's going to hit our servers, the Reblazers. And based on the analysis and the traffic profile, we're going to determine if the request should be passed to your origin or not. If we detect it's not a malicious traffic and it's a valid traffic, we will actually pass it to the origin, get a response back, and send it back to the end user. Of course, during the same time, we analyze all the traffic from all of our customers to detect any new patterns, any new type of malicious attacks, etc. And all that can be deployed as a new signature and a new configuration protection for your web application. Even if your application or your web property was never targeted or attacked by that specific attack, you will still be protected because somebody else was targeted and attacked by that. Now, I'll move on to the demo. If you're going to have any questions, feel free to interrupt and just type your question. Itamar is going to help me to know when the question is there. So this is a demo control panel we use as it says for the demos, some of the majority of the traffic is a bogus traffic that we send to demonstrate how the dashboard looks, the logs, and etc. As you can see in the dashboard, it's going to show you the last 30 minutes of your traffic. You can change the time slots, and you can go up to 90 days. Due to GDPR compliance, we have to keep the logs up to 90 days. Of course, it can be customized and set to a different period of time for the retention, but it's case by case. By default, it's going to be 90 days. The dashboard will allow you to identify if there was some type of anomaly in your traffic. As we can see here, like this kind of traffic looks kind of normal and standard for this specific configuration, but then we see a spike. When you point to a specific location, it's going to show you how many hits you had, what type of hits, and etc. So to actually dig down and see what happened, you can highlight this section of that specific time frame, and it's going to show you an updated one. And it's going to show the drill down. So this time it shows you every 15 seconds. So we can see between this time frame there were more blocks, and this time there were more challenges. And the main difference between challenges and blocks is that when we use JavaScript injection to validate if the user is human. If we were able to, if the user was able to execute the JavaScript, and there are a minimum of 7 different steps for the execution, because the bots are so sophisticated nowadays, as Itamar mentioned, but they're not that sophisticated to bypass all the different requests we send them. So for the fact that we have different steps for verification and challenges, it allows us to minimize the false positive. So let's say, for example, we would like to explore what happened during this time frame. We can highlight it again, you can drill down even more. Now you can see it's going to show every 2 seconds. And we see that a lot of challenges came here with all the requests. Majority of the requests were challenged, actually. You can see the response codes as well. Majority of them were 200s. You can see the request count, bandwidth, latency. By the way, our latency usually doesn't go above about half a millisecond. And on the bottom, you will be able to see all the details, the summary of all the requests that will help you to understand if there was a specific IP address or specific source or specific target or specific signature that was triggered. So in this case, the signature is going to show that majority came from challenges. And when we click on signatures, we can see that as well. Challenge. You can look at the sources where this who was challenged at that time. We can see that majority came from Google. And again, please keep in mind that this is just a demo. We can see how many requests were passed, how many were challenged. So we can see that not 100% of the requests were bots or invalid bots. Here we can see different information. You also can filter based on the countries, browsers, companies to detect some anomaly or some common determinator that will help you to analyze it further to understand what happened. Now, view logs. I already sent a couple of requests to this domain, and please be aware that we don't own example.com. I wish we would. It's a good domain to own. So the example.com right now is configured on our side, and I updated my local host file to point to that specific IP address. I issued a couple of requests, and I want to show you the way it works. Now, everything here it can be filtered. So when I do like IP, and I'll put my IP address right now, where I issue the actual calls from the request, we can see that there were 9 requests coming from my from this specific IP address to this specific host name. Now, the view log is actually color coded. This way, it's easier to understand what happened with a specific request. Whenever it's a white color, it means the request was a valid request. We pass it back to the origin and responded to the end user. If you see yellow, it means it was challenged. Now, let's take a look at the timestamps. At 5:10, and this is GMT 58, and within 3 minutes, there was 1 request from the same IP address that was challenged. Why is that? As you can see on the right-hand side, we have the H. The H indicates that it was a human. So our system is able to track every individual request. We send 2 different cookies when the request is validated. One cookie is going to be for the user, another cookie is going to be for the session. So that allows us to minimize the number of false positive requests and analyze every single request. Now, when we click on this specific request, we can see all the information about the request. You can click on the magnifying glass here and expand the more details to get all the details about the request. What was the path requested? What was the user agent? If there's any referrer, the session information. And here you can see if the request actually passed to the origin or not. If the request will not be passed to the origin, it's going to stop only on the proxy. It's not going to show the origin details. And all the details about the request, as you can see, the cookies I mentioned earlier. Now, another cool part about this log view is that everything is clickable. If you would like to drill down and see, for example, for this specific session, you can double click and it appears here in the filter. You can filter based on a cookie or any information you would like. Now, let's take a look at the one that was challenged. And it was challenged because I sent here, I can show it to you. I sent a curl request from my terminal using this information. I sent to this domain. I did a custom header, so I will be able to show that it was actually logged. And I tried to spoof the user agent. Even though it came from the same IP address, we still were able to detect that it's a bot, not a human. Now, if it's a good bot or not, it depends on the traffic profile, what kind of automation you have, and etc. So let's click on this one, the one that was challenged. We can see the reason for it was challenged. We can look at the magnifying glass. And if you recall, I showed you that there were several different steps. Here, that it shows only Reblaze. It means the request was stopped on the Reblaze side because it was not able to execute the JavaScript in this case. And here's the custom header to show you that it's actually the same request that I made from my terminal. I think maybe here we can stop for a second and see if there are any questions. I understand it's a lot of information. Itamar?
Yeah, nothing on the chat yet.
Okay.
No, but if there are any questions, feel free to. You can even unmute your phone, sorry, the connection, if you want, or write in the chat.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on then.
Cool. Now let's go to the plant overview. This is where we configure every application, every web property that we would like to protect. Off top of it, you can see here that we have two different modes, active and report. To switch it to active, it's easy. You just click on that, and now we're actually blocking the traffic. Report mode, it means we're going to analyze the traffic, report in the view log, as I showed before. We're going to show it as blocked, but we're not going to actually block it. If it's set to active, then of course we're going to block it. And I can show it to you by going to, for example, example.com. Let's try to do, I don't know, an executable file. You see, access denied. Now, if you're going to go to the logs, later on I will show it to you that it shows as blocked. And this is going to be blocked because it's active mode. If it will be in report mode, it's still going to show as blocked, but it's not actually going to block the request. In the configuration, I'm going to go briefly about it because there is a lot of customization you can do. Important point and important configuration to know is that Reblaze can become a load balancer for your service as well. You can add multiple hosts and you can load balance them based on weight, or you can set it as a backup. You can also customize the HTTP and HTTPS ports if you would like to have much more tight security on your origin. We just pass the host header. You can also hard code it. We can offload SSL traffic, means that we're going to go back to your origin over HTTP to reduce the workload on your origin. Customization for the timeouts. You can even deploy a custom configuration using Nginx syntax if you would like to have some type of custom redirects or any other type of configuration to be passed to the Reblaze side. So we're going to handle the logic and not your origin. Challenge domain, we can cross domain the cookies on the Reblaze side, and that's a very useful setting for our customers because you will be surprised how many companies actually don't encrypt their passwords, their usernames, their credit card numbers, and a lot of sensitive information has been sent in plain text in the queries. So by default, we're going to hash this information, and even if your origin does not send it as hashed, we will hash it for you.
So how that works, Deep?
What exactly?
That you do hashing of the credit card number. So if it is credit card or any sensitive parameters if you encrypt. We do have to do any things on the back end, I mean, origin servers?
No. So what's gonna happen? We're gonna hash it, and plus we're not gonna store it in the log. So since we are since all the information is passed through our network, we have full control over it, right? So we can hash it, so it's not gonna be stored in plain text.
Okay, so that is was my question, a previous question earlier, because we do use your Reblaze product in our GCP, and we do have some information which is in line to that TTP things, and I do see in the logs of your end. So I like to hash it out. So I will check with your team. Okay.
Of course.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad to hear you're using our services, and I hope you're happy with the solution.
Yep.
Cool. Application profiles, as Itamar mentioned earlier, we have the ability to help you out with the CDN. We can use the cloud provider CDN or any third-party CDN. We have agreements with different CDNs as well, but this is where you can control the cache control policies. By default, we're going to honor any cache control headers that are sent by your origin. You can override them on our end as well using specific pattern for the path. Security profiles. That's where the customization comes. To be honest, even half an hour is not enough time to go over the security profiles, but our system is customizable to that extent that you can create different profiles, different ACLs, different signatures for a specific path. For example, it's very uncommon to target images, videos, and etc. Or nobody's gonna, bots are not gonna try to hijack to do SQL injection, etc. on a specific or static files. So for this one, we don't see any reason to challenge it because some bots that can download the content, etc., won't be able to pass the challenge. Then for the root, we have a different profile, and I will show it to you in a second what the difference is in those profiles. And we can see for the API, we have also no challenge profile. That means we're not going to check if it's a bot or not. This is a default configuration, but we always can enable challenge for the API as well. And it will require some customization, create custom signatures, custom ACLs, if you wish to go that route. In many cases, companies are not aware of what kind of bots they should expect, what kind of bots their customers are using, and it's fine because companies can use different APIs, different scripts, and all that will require a lot of customization. So in most of the cases, we don't enable challenge. However, we do have some customers that we did enable challenge for the API as well, because they knew exactly how their system is designed and what to accept and what not to accept. Now, if you're going to go to...
Dima, sorry, just time check. We have 2 or 3 more minutes for your part.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, so under the custom signature, this is where you can create custom signature based on specific information of the request. It can be headers, it can be arguments, it can be anything you want from the actual request. Then we have the WAF policies. So if, for example, you know that patch should not be enabled for your API calls or for your application, or it should be, you can enable it or disable it. ACLs, this is where you're going to allow or bypass or deny a specific signature you created. Like you notice, for example, that a lot of bots are coming from a specific source with specific user agent or specific details to that bot. We can always create a deny. But in most of the cases, we're going to use custom signature for allow or bypass. We have predefined rules, as you can see in policies. Whenever you see the Rhino, it's going to be predefined, very basic and very common information. And if you guys recall from a couple minutes ago, I showed you the profiles were no challenge and default challenge. This is where I can actually create multiple profiles based on the path. As you can see, we have default profile and we have no challenge profile. The main difference is going to be the ACL deny bot. So here, if we select this profile for a specific path, it means we're not going to challenge that request with the JavaScript. Really quick, we have also dynamic rules where you can set different rate limiting policies. And it's going to be able to show you, like in this case, a threshold of 10 for a period of a minute. It means if you're going to get more than 10 requests from the same IP address, or you can choose a different target. And if it's going to be the same, this URI, we're going to block it for 1 hour. In this case, it's a simulated ban, same idea as the report I showed you before, And when you're going to go to quarantine, an interesting word we use, especially during this time, you can go to simulation ban list, and you can see what violation has this specific IP, what it has violated, how it violated, when, and when it's going to expire. Same is going to happen with ban list. You can whitelist IPs, and etc. I guess we're out of time for now. Itamar?
Yeah, Dima, before we move to Casey,
Yeah.
is there anything you want to show our attendees about the home screen of the dashboard? Maybe some of those tabs on the bottom.
Which one?
On the dashboard, maybe the source countries.
Yeah, I did show it initially.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
Yeah. And
So,
guys, just to show you here one thing really quick, Itamar, I'm sorry. When I showed you before that I did a request to that cmd.exe file, that executable file, and that specific, as you can see, since it was marked as active mode, we actually blocked the request. We detected it was a human, but because it violated one of the signatures, we blocked that request. And that's it for me.
perfect. Thank you, Dima. So let me grab the ball so I can share the slides. And Casey, I'll hand it over to you in a second.
Yeah,
Just
great.
share my screen
Thank you. If
again.
you can pull up my one slide.
Yes. Can you see it?
I can see it.
Perfect.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So we are a company called Beyond Impact. We're based out of Minnesota in the United States, and we are a partner of Reblaze. And so we are a company that helps implement Reblaze, but then kind of helps take it to the next step. And we just want to talk a little bit today about the cost savings in a time of crisis. And that's really, you know, we're more aware of it with COVID-19 going around the world. We're more aware of what's going on. We're sending people to their home offices. We're kind of heightened awareness of kind of our vulnerabilities. And you know, the Reblaze platform is a great, you know, it's a great time to kind of look at something like this and put this in place. So what is the, you know, at this point, you know, we're sending our staff home. We're trying to figure out how to continue to do our business, but you know, hackers are still kind of lurking around. You know, everything from you know, social engineering. You know, think about all the phone calls. I've gotten 3 in the last 2 weeks to try to get banking numbers and all kinds of things, all the way up to bot attacks. So they're on the rise, and the attacks are up. So you know, the cost of doing business, unfortunately, probably does go up a little bit to put the right tools in place. But if you're hacked or something is compromised, you know, the cost is probably not measurable at this point. You know, I think Itamar, you and I have talked about a lot of companies, and even your examples. You know, planes that are sitting on the ground without people in them cost a lot of money. You know, it's the fraction of the cost to put tools in place like Reblaze to be able to protect against that. And so at Beyond Impact, we also are adding another layer on, and it's really putting people in place and putting experts in place to help you run the platform and run it efficiently. Some of the folks that we talk to say, well, we don't have the right people, or we don't have the right number of people to be able to support this. Reblaze doesn't take a lot of work to support. It doesn't take a lot of people to support, but it does take the right people to support it. So we've got 2 services that we're offering as managed services. One's called the Gatekeeper Basic Service. Think of that as kind of a consultant that would help you, you know, look at your reports and your meetings, having meetings, and talk about trends and threats and so on, and help make recommendations to make changes on the Reblaze platform. And the second one is the Gatekeeper Service Expert. So Gatekeeper Service Basic and Expert. The Expert is almost exactly the same thing. However, we become kind of an extension of your team. We become, we'll join you on team meetings and talk about strategy, but we'll actually make the changes in the platform for you. The basic service, we make recommendations. Expert will actually make those changes. So it's 2, and I think we're probably going to be looking at other ones to add on. But these are 2 that we see customers need to be able to add the right expertise in place, to be able to kind of watch for you know, the things that are doing, you know, make sure that Reblaze is doing its job, making sure that it's actually letting through the traffic that it's supposed to let through and block the traffic it's not supposed to let through, but also just helping you make the right calibrations and changes to the system to make sure that you're always safe. So that's kind of our two areas that we're focused on as we continue to help customers grow and keep their businesses running. And in these times of change, we're figuring out how to do more with less. And so we're offering two different packages to add on top of the Reblaze platform.
Perfect. Thank you, Casey.
You're welcome.
Definitely interesting times we're all going through worldwide. So with that, maybe we'll jump into a quick summary. One of the things we are offering to you as attendees in today's webinar is a special offer that I want to go through, and then we can open it to some Q&A. So first of all, as we summarize today's webinar, what is easy to use about Reblaze and interesting about Reblaze is you can use this risk-free, meaning you can add Reblaze as another layer to your existing security environment. As Dima showed you, you can put us in what we call report mode, where we analyze everything, we inspect everything, but we don't make any active decisions until you move us to active protection mode. This allows you a time to learn and get used to the system, and then later on decide if you need other security elements that you have, or just move everything to the Reblaze platform. But the other special thing that we have for you today is we are offering a free 60-day try and buy offer. Only attendees of this webinar can enjoy this, and you can enjoy the Reblaze service for 60 days free. If you're interested, please send me an email, and we will work with you on your environment, and we'll be happy to see how to support your business and to protect your web assets. So with that, maybe we'll open it up to any questions, whether you can unmute your line or write in the chat window. So Dean, if you can help me with the chat, I cannot see it right now. But if someone wants to ask a live question, we are all here to answer those questions.
This is Praful from Pizza. I like to ask Dima one question. Is any kind of you have a best practice regarding profile setups and parameter sizing, so we do not get CPU spike or anything certain in that area? So if you have any best practice document, please share with us.
Yeah, of course. We do have several of them, and we have some predefined rules as well. It's hard to create a lot of predefined rules for the dynamic rules or the profiles, because every traffic profile for every customer is going to be different, since, as we all know, there are no two applications that are built with the same logic and the same idea. But we'll definitely share some information. It might be a good idea maybe to jump on a separate call to understand exactly what you're looking for.
Sure. Basically, if it is like that parameter which is 10-1, you cannot set like a 2 and 1. You will be spiking up CPU. Those kind of like what are the best practice of threshold, how it to be done.
Yeah.
So those kind of when you define new rules, you just want to make sure you don't go over and you kill your CPU size and everything.
Yeah, majority of the CPU spike from our experience is going to be due to the DPI, deep packet inspection that we do. And then again, like we notice for some customers, when it's enabled, it barely affects the CPU because they have very basic API calls or basic query calls. But when customers have very complicated calls and very large calls, then of course the DPI is going to increase the CPU usage. That's why I usually suggest to jump on a call to see some of your requests, to understand how we can customize it.
Yeah, definitely. We are working with your team, specifically Maxim and other person, Ronnie. Those are amazing guys.
Yeah, you're in good hands.
Yeah.
Yes, you're definitely good hands, Praful. So thank you for that. Cool. But we can send you some. We can take this section and maybe send you some documentation and some examples. So let's do that for sure. Perfect. Any other question? Okay. Is there anything on the chat, Dima, that is coming in?
Nope, so far nothing.
Okay. Perfect. So
hold on.
yeah, go ahead, Dima. Sorry.
So for traffic, is it possible to have flexible unless the customer have much greater traffic and how to deal with it? Yeah, Alexandra, I think it's better to take it offline to understand. I mean, we don't mind discussing it in public forum as well. It sounds to me like you're asking for some type of discounts in case the traffic is higher. Is that what you're asking with? Is that what you're asking for? Yeah, that's something we can review case by case, but there's no specific discount. Like if you have more traffic, obviously your usage is going to be higher, and then your bill can increase. This is with any company. But if you're asking for, yeah, I think it's better to take it offline to understand exactly what you're referring to and how you are, what's your expectations, and based on that, we can give you the proper response.
Okay. Perfect. So let's follow up on that definitely. Cool. Anything else that came up, Dima?
I don't see any more questions.
Okay, perfect. So with that, thank you everyone for attending, for your time. I think we're giving you a few minutes back. Feel free to reach out, whether it is to me, to Dima, or Casey. Beyond Impact is our key partner here in the US, and we'd love to work with each and every one of you. And I hope you have a great day and keep healthy and safe.